and then you try and step or float into that planche hold position. Today, let's look at two movements. We're going to go through the handstand down to the planche, and we're going to show progressions towards that and progressions beyond that, and then exactly the same dynamic type movement, but now front lever position through to a pullover the bar. So let's break them down and have a look at them, make them doable for all levels. So to start with, let's break them down to the 4 individual components. So we have the tuck planche itself, or the planche position. Now that could be the tuck planche, it could be more advanced planche positions, or it could be toe assist, or even crow, frog, crane type thing. It just needs to be a position that you can hold with control for around 10 seconds, because that's going to be the position that you land in from the handstand. And that's the other movement we need to look at. We need to look at the handstand. So obviously there's the freestanding handstand that most people are going to be aiming for, but might not have yet. If you don't have the freestanding version that's controlled enough to descent slowly, then you might need to go with a chest to wall or back to wall version. And that's going to depend on which variation of the down, the eccentric, the lowering movement you're going to do. Whether you're going to do chest to wall version or whether you're going to do back to wall with a little bit of support. Whichever one you're going to do, that's the one you need to warm up. Then we have our front lever position. So warming that up, most people should be able to hold a tucked position that's quite inverted. So that's a nice easy one that everyone can do. To make it harder, we can start to open out, lower the hip down in line with the shoulder, all the way up. And then we have 2 ways that we can attack the pullover. It could be a slow variation. So if you have that, be able to pull the hip over the top and get over like so. If you don't have that yet, you could just work the eccentric. So that means you do the same movement. So instead of starting in the front lever position, you finish in the front lever position. So you would go up to your support position, slowly lower over the bar, show control because we want as much time under tension as we can get, and then slowly enter your inverted position or your front lever position. Next, let's look at the transitions between them. So for the freestanding version down to tuck planche, I need to have a nice comfortable freestanding handstand. Now notice my legs are apart. The legs apart is going to make the down much easier to articulate or round through the spine. So I can frog better, which will round the low back, round the mid back, and then I'm already a good way down close to the planche before the hip starts to really lower into that position. So you want to delay as much as possible that hip coming over, because that's the bit that's going to feel really heavy, unless you're really flexy in the tuck. If you're really flexy in the tuck, the hip will go backwards a lot. I can't demonstrate it because I'm not flexible enough, but it means that you'll have a real deep tuck position here with your butt still high. But then when you come over to this position, it's going to happen really fast, and the hip's going to go from back there to back there really quickly. So you might actually need to spread the legs apart a little bit as you come down to bring the tuck down earlier, or bring the hip over earlier, which is going to make this part a bit easier and keep everything closer to being balanced the whole time and not firing the hip fast in one direction. And then if you're strong in that bottom position and you can easily go into your tuck position, then fantastic. If you're not, you might need to use a bit of elbow help. So basically land on your elbows or use a bit of friction, or the other way is to land lightly on the floor and then push back up and do a little tuck planche hold. That's hard to talk after all that. And then if we don't have the freestanding version, we can go to the wall. So we could use that back to wall version or the chest to wall version. So with the back to wall version, if we're trying to get into the planche, we're not going to be able to roll down the wall too much because we're going to run out of space at the bottom and not be able to find the planche. So the back to wall one is more about having a little bit of help with your balance. And then as you come down, you do exactly the same as what we were doing with the freestanding version. But at the bottom, at the last second, you stop using the wall and then you come into your planche position. But you can see I was a little bit too close to the wall, my head got in the way. So getting that distance right with your hands for your planche position is going to be critical to holding that. So it's a little bit clunky, but you might need that support of the wall if the balance isn't too great through that tuck transition and the freestanding start. If you did want to practice that articulation part, so you roll down the wall for the eccentric, you can do it like this, so put everything against the wall. You want to have a strong position here, you don't want to be collapsed. If you are collapsed, you need to work on this strength first through those upper back traps, and then when you're in this position, you feel nice and strong, you can roll down. Now I'm going to push my low back into the wall, my mid back, and then my upper back. But at the bottom, you're probably going to get pushed off the wall. So it's not ideal for the full movement, but it's a really good drill to learn that articulation and roll down through the spine, which stops the hip falling off very far. Then we have the chest to wall version, which is really good if you want to work on the transition into the planche. It's not so good in terms of helping you with your balance. So if you're using the chest to wall version, I'd recommend you're also working on your freestanding and handstand balance, both in the straight and the deep tuck froggy position. But again, you need to fine tune your distance away from the wall, have the hands externally rotated wherever your hands need to be for your planche, and then we're gonna slowly come down, round in the back, pushing into protraction. Hips are gonna come down low, and then you try and step or float into that planche hold position. And then for the front lever pullover, you're gonna have to time it correctly. So how long you can hold in the front lever and leave enough energy to get over the bar. So you don't wanna wind this position up too much and then not be able to get up. So from there, hip over the bar, roll around with control. Then once you're there, you could come out nice and slow through your eccentric, which then you're probably going to be able to get into a more advanced front lever position. Now, I do have a separate video on the bar pullover, but the big thing you need to think about is just getting the hip over enough and take your legs in that direction, not that direction. So the most common mistake is people pull up nicely, but they pull up here, and then they're pulling like over there. So they're reaching with their legs and their energy in that direction, but we need to pull up and over in this direction. So watch the pathway of the hip. So from that position, it goes up and over. The legs are taking me right over in that direction. When I feel I've got enough over the front, I can either put all my weight on the bar or just keep pulling and go over until I roll around. But like I showed earlier, if you need to, just change to eccentric, start above the bar and roll down. Then in terms of progressing the movement, we can just play around with the hold times in the position. So the hold time in the planche, the hold time in the front lever, those could be static. So we lower down into the position and just hold there. A really good hold would be around 10 seconds. If you can get over 10 seconds, I'd probably recommend that you make the position harder. Or you could dynamically move out from a harder position to an easier position. Let me show you the first one. So go into a 10-second hold. So I'll show you what I can do for 10. Let's go for like a high hip straddle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, nearly 10. And that was more of a count than seconds. And then in the front lever, now with the front lever, this was going to be a bit trickier because I can do the hold time, but I've got to leave enough energy to get over the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Just. And then let's look at the more dynamic hold option. So I'm going to lower down to the planche in the hardest position I can do, but then bring it back to get that hold time of between 5 to 10 seconds. So it's not going to be as long as my 10-second hold in that static position, but I'm going to push the limits on the advanced position as I come down and then slowly pull into an easier progression. And then the same with the front lever, but I'm going to open it so I can get into a full front lever, then slowly pull it back, but leave enough energy to get over, which is going to be, again, the tricky part. Oh, well, not enough, look, see? That's the hip. So I had to give it a little bit of a kick to get over because I didn't leave enough energy, or I got the technique slightly wrong, or I didn't pull the hip over enough. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions with this one, if you have any video requests. I've just started a Discord for both the YouTube members and then people that have downloaded and using my app. So check down below if you're interested in joining the YouTube membership, or if you're after help with your training, check out my app, link is down in the description. Thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated, and I'll speak to you on the next one.